what if I told you there was, like, a great secret to life, something really powerful, a principle known by, some of history's biggest minds across centuries, but for most people, still a secret.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds almost like a myth, doesn't it? But the source material we're diving into today, it presents exactly that idea.
Right.
We're looking at this massive best-selling book that claims it reveals the secret. It pulls together historical stuff and modern perspectives.
Exactly. And the book doesn't just pitch it as philosophy. It's framed as, like, a fundamental law of how reality works.
Yeah, and the source even names names, right?
Totally. It mentions Plato, Shakespeare, Isaac Newton, Victor Hugo, Beethoven, Lincoln, Emerson, Edison, even Einstein. Claims they all understood this secret.
Quite the lineup. So our mission here for this deep dive is basically to unpack this specific material for you listening in.
Yeah, we want to go through what the source actually presents, pull out the key ideas, the practical bits they offer.
Give you a clear picture without you having to wade through it all yourself. Make sense of their claims.
All right, let's jump in then. So, at the heart of what this source calls the secret is this concept, the law of attraction.
And the basic idea they put forward is super simple. Like, attracts like, that's the core.
And then they take that simple idea and, well, they run with it. They say it's the master key to creating your entire life.
Suggesting that, everything you experience is literally drawn to you by this law.
The source actually starts with a personal story from the author about how she found this concept.
Right. It describes this really tough time. She was having burnout. Her dad died suddenly. Relationships were tricky.
Yeah, a really low point. And then she says she was given this greatest gift.
Which was finding a mention of the secret in, like, a really old book her daughter gave her, 100-year-old book.
And this is where the story in the source gets kind of compelling. From that first hint, she claims she started tracing it back through history.
Finding that these famous people supposedly knew about it.
Exactly. And she felt like this knowledge shouldn't be hidden, So she got obsessed with sharing it.
And the source describes her search for modern teachers almost like a magnet. And she looked for people who got this principle.
They just started showing up.
Yeah, she claims these, great living masters were just drawn into her life one after another. And if she, got sidetracked...
This thing would nudge her back.
Exactly. The source says something would gently guide her to the next person, the next bit of info she needed.
Then the idea grew into making a film. And the material really stresses this point. Making the secret film and book wasn't just about the secret.
They supposedly used the secret to make it happen, claimed they magnetized everyone and everything they needed, overcame huge obstacles.
That's a big claim.
It is. And then, after the film came out, the source reports this, just flood of stories. Testimonials presented as proof, basically. Miracles, manifestations happening fast.
Like what sort of thing?
People claiming they healed from chronic stuff, recovered from injuries doctors said were, permanent. Attracting big sums of money, finding their perfect house or partner, getting career breakthroughs.
Wow. So big life changes.
Yeah, but not just the huge stuff. The source also shares these, heartwarming stories, relationships fixed, kids using it for better grades or friends.
Even small things.
Even manifesting, a specific feather they wanted to find, right up to attracting millions of dollars. And the material claims lots of these stories came in just months after the film launched.
Okay, so after setting the stage with those stories, the source then dives into explaining the principle itself.
Right. The main point they hammer home is the great secret of life is the law of attraction.
And they define that, attracts, thinks specifically at the level of our thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts, according to this material, aren't just thoughts. They're described as being magnetic, and they have a frequency.
Like radio waves.
Kind of. The source uses this analogy that's pretty easy to grasp. You personally are like a human transmission tower. Okay. And you're constantly broadcasting a frequency with your thoughts. It goes out into the whole universe, and then...
What goes around comes around.
Basically, yeah. Whatever you send out returns to the source, which is you.
Which leads to their core claim, then. Your thoughts right now are literally building your future life.
What you focus on most, what you think about most intensely, the source says that's what shows up. They state it super directly. Your thoughts become things.
Okay, but that raises a big question, doesn't it? If it's that simple, why isn't everyone just living their dream life?
Right, and the source tackles that. They talk about what they call the don't want epidemic.
The don't want epidemic.
Yeah. The explanation they offer is that this law, it responds to your thoughts, not necessarily what you consciously desire.
Ah, okay.
It's impersonal, they say, like gravity. It doesn't care if your thought is good or bad or if you label it want or don't want. It just responds to the thought itself.
So if you're constantly thinking about, say, being in debt.
You're focusing on debt, and the law, according to the source, brings you more. Well, debt. Or worrying about being late, you attract lateness.
The example they give is saying, I don't want to be late.
Exactly. The source says the law of attraction just hears late and brings you more situations where you're late.
And it's always on. You can't pause it.
Nope, no pause button. The source emphasizes it's always working, always active, as long as you're thinking. Past, present, future thoughts, they all count.
So how do you know what frequency you're actually sending out then, if it's based on thoughts, not just wishes?
Good question. The source points straight to your feelings. Your emotions are the immediate feedback.
Okay.
They tell you right now exactly what frequency you're on. That's the claim.
And they make this really strong point. You can't feel genuinely bad and have purely good thoughts at the same time.
Right. Impossible, they say. And the reverse is true, too. When you're thinking genuinely positive thoughts, you feel good. It's linked.
So bad feelings are like a warning light.
Precisely. The source describes them as a message from the universe, basically saying, hey, you're on a negative frequency. You're attracting more stuff you don't want.
Like a warning. Change thinking now sign.
Exactly that analogy. And good feelings. That's the universe saying, yep, you're on a positive frequency. More good stuff is coming your way.
So emotions are basically this internal compass telling you if you're heading towards what you want or away from it.
That's the idea. They're a feedback mechanism. Are you on track or off course? And they add another layer, too.
Which is?
You attract what you're feeling about, not just thinking about intellectually.
Okay. So that explains why sometimes you have a bad morning and the whole day just seems to spiral downwards.
Exactly. One negative thought leads to a bad feeling, which attracts another negative thing, which makes you feel worse. And it cascades. That's the explanation offered.
Okay. So if you catch yourself feeling bad, spiraling, how do you flip the switch? How do you change that frequency quickly?
The source offers something they call secret shifters.
Secret shifters. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, they're basically simple, everyday things you can deliberately use to change how you feel, like instantly, and therefore shift your frequency.
What kind of things?
Oh, really simple stuff. Like putting on music that makes you happy, deliberately thinking about a wonderful memory, or picturing something great you want to happen in the future, thinking about someone you love, or even just getting out in nature for a bit, petting your dog, looking at a photo that makes you smile.
So conscious diversions, basically.
Pretty much. Things that reliably make you feel good. The source suggests even just a minute or two of focusing on one of these can shift your whole emotional state and start changing what you attract.
All right. So knowing the principle, knowing about feelings, how does the source say you actually use this proactively to create what you want?
They use a great analogy for this. The universe as your genie.
Like Aladdin.
Exactly like Aladdin. Aladdin, the universe representing the law of attraction, is the genie. And the genie's response is always,
your wish is my command.
Always. And the source points out, in the original story, there weren't limits on wishes. This genie, this law, is always listening to everything you think, say, and do.
And it assumes whatever you're focusing on. That's what you want.
That's the operating principle they describe. If you think about it, talk about it, act on it, the universe assumes, okay, they want more of that.
So how do you command the genie deliberately?
The source lays out a 3-step creative process. Simple steps. Step 1 is ask.
Just ask
Get
it.
crystal clear on what you want. Specificity helps. That clarity is your command to the universe, to the genie.
Okay, ask. What's step 2?
Step 2 is believe. And this is crucial.
Believe what?
Believe you've already received it. You have to act, speak, and think as if it's already yours.
Like pretend.
Kind of. The material encourages make-believing, like kids do so naturally. They say that belief, that unwavering faith that it's already done. That's your greatest power in this whole process.
But what about the how? Like, how is it going to happen? That's usually the big question.
And the source addresses that directly. It says the how is not your job.
Not your job. Whose job is it?
The universe's job, the genie's job. Trying to figure out the how, obsessing over the mechanics, the source says that actually shows a lack of faith. It slows things down or stops them.
Okay, so ask, believe.
Yeah.
What's step 3?
Step 3 is receive. And this one is all about feeling.
Feely.
Feeling the way you will feel once your desire manifests. You need to generate those emotions now.
Ah, so feeling good now puts you on the right frequency to actually get it.
Exactly. That's the idea. The
Yeah.
source suggests using affirmations like, I am receiving now, and really trying to feel intensely what it's like to have it.
Any practical tips for that?
Yeah, they mention things like, if you want a new car, go test drive it, feel what it's like to own it. Want a new house, go look at houses, shop for things for it. Do things that generate those feelings of already having it.
And what about action? Do you just sit and feel good?
Not necessarily. The source says action might be needed, but if it's inspired action, like prompted by the universe bringing it to you,
It should feel easy, joyful.
yeah, it'll feel effortless, exciting, not like a hard slog or struggle. And they also say to trust your gut feelings, your intuition.
Because that's the universe guiding you.
That's presented as the universe giving you nudges, showing you the next step towards receiving.
Okay, so ask, believe, receive. How does this apply to, say, something specific like money, wealth?
Right. The source is super direct about money. To attract it, you must focus your thoughts and feelings on abundance, on having wealth.
And definitely not on lack or debt.
Absolutely not. Thinking about not having enough money, worrying about bills. The source says that just attracts more lack. You get what you focus on.
They offer some, like, techniques for this, right?
Yeah, some interesting ones. There's the secret check game. Use a blank check from their website, write in the amount you want, and really feel the joy of having that money right now. Or another idea. Take your actual bills, but pretend they're checks coming to you. Maybe even mentally add a 0 to the amount, just to shift your feeling about money flowing in versus flowing out.
What about the idea of working hard for money? That's pretty ingrained for most people.
The material challenges that directly. It claims that thought itself creates a frequency of struggle. They suggest replacing it with thoughts and feelings like, money comes easily and frequently.
And that little phrase, I can't afford it.
Huge no-no, according to the source. They say it's incredibly powerful in summoning lack. The advice is to consciously flip it. Start saying, I can afford that.
Even if it's not strictly true at the moment.
Even if you have to pretend at first. The source literally suggests repeating it like a parrot for 30 days, just to rewire your brain and your frequency around money.
Interesting. And they claim wealthy people do this naturally.
Whether they know about the law of attraction consciously or not, the source claims they tend to focus on wealth, on abundance, not on scarcity. And it puts forward this idea that your wealth isn't something you have to create from nothing.
It's already out there.
Yeah, like it's already existing in the invisible realm, just waiting for you to tune into its frequency and attract it.
Okay, let's shift gears. What about health? How does the source apply the secret here?
This is where the claims get, well, pretty bold. The source states flat out, your physical body is a direct product of your thoughts.
Wow. So thoughts and emotions determine physical stuff, structure, function.
That's the claim. They point to the placebo effect as prime evidence.
Right, where belief actually cures someone.
Exactly. The source presents that as the law of attraction in action for health. The belief brings the cure.
Does it say you should ditch medicine then?
No, interestingly, it says using these principles can work alongside conventional medicine. The claim is that thinking perfect health is possible for anyone, regardless of their current diagnosis or situation.
So how does illness fit in then, according to this model?
The material posits that illness is basically held in the body by thought, by focusing on it, observing it, giving it attention.
So if you're sick, you shouldn't talk about it.
Unless absolutely necessary, yeah.
Uh.
The advice is to avoid dwelling on it, because focusing on illness adds energy to it. Same goes for listening to others complain about their illnesses. You're adding energy to that frequency of sickness.
So focus only on well-being.
Think and speak only of perfect health. That's the prescription from the source.
There's a story in the source about this, isn't there? The Miracle Man.
Ah, yes. Morris Goodman. Incredible story. Plane crash, completely paralyzed. Doctors basically said, no hope, he'll never walk again.
But he didn't accept that.
Not at all. He apparently used his mind relentlessly, focused intensely on one single image, himself walking out of that hospital by Christmas.
And he did.
Against all medical odds, he walked out for Christmas. The source shares his own summary of it. Man becomes what he thinks about.
Powerful. What about something like aging?
Also addressed. The source presents aging primarily as a result of limited thinking, societal beliefs we buy into.
But bodies do age.
Well, the source points to science saying cells are constantly replacing themselves. So it suggests focusing thoughts on perfection, youth, vitality, rather than decline.
And happy thoughts literally make you healthier.
That's the idea. Positive thoughts lead to a happier biochemistry, less stress on the body, allowing its natural healing abilities to work better. Remove the physiological stress, they say.
Okay, what about relationships? How does the secret apply there?
The main advice is about focus, again. Focus on what you appreciate in the other person, their strengths, the good stuff, not on complaining or finding fault.
Makes sense. Complaining probably doesn't attract good feelings.
Exactly. The source shares this anecdote about an art director.
Oh, yeah.
He apparently kept attracting women who weren't interested, who seemed to turn away from him. He looked at his own paintings and realized, subconsciously, he was painting images of women turning away. So he consciously started painting pictures of himself, happy, with the kind of women he wanted to date. And guess what?
His dating life changed.
Dramatically, according to the story. His real-life experiences shifted.
And that acting as if thing applies here, too.
Definitely. Acting as if you already have the relationship you desire. They tell the story of Glenda.
What did she do?
She wanted to move in with her boyfriend, but it wasn't happening yet. So she started packing her suitcases anyway, like physically making room to receive what she wanted. It's presented as sending a powerful signal.
But there's a crucial piece before all that, isn't there? Something about yourself.
Yes, absolutely vital, according to the source.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself first.
Why is that so important?
Because feeling bad about yourself, criticizing yourself, that broadcasts as a negative frequency. And that blocks all good things, including love and good relationships, from coming to you. Praising and blessing yourself, your body, is key.
Okay, so we've covered personal life, money, health, relationships. What about the bigger picture? The world, war, poverty, stuff like that.
The source tackles this with a specific concept. What you resist persists.
What you resist persists. How does that work?
The explanation is, when you're pushing hard against something you don't want, you're actually focusing on it very intensely, usually with strong negative emotion.
Right, like being angry about war.
Exactly. One of the teachers in the source, Bob Doyle, gives this analogy. Imagine saying, no, I don't want this feeling. The very act of focusing on not wanting it
just attracts it faster.
That's the claim. It pulls it towards you because that's where your energy and focus are.
So how does that apply globally?
The source offers controversial examples. It claims, for instance, that the anti-war movement actually creates more war.
Seriously.
Because the collective focus and energy is on war, the thing they don't want. Same logic applied to the anti-drug movement, creating more drugs.
Right.
The focus is on the problem.
So focusing on problems just makes them bigger and draws negativity into your own life, too.
That's the argument presented. It adds energy to the problem globally, and it attracts that negative frequency into your personal experience.
So what's the alternative then? Just ignore the problems.
Not ignore, but shift the focus. Consciously focus on what you do want for the world. Think about, feel, visualize trust, love, abundance, education, peace, health.
Like Mother Teresa.
Exactly. The source brings her up. Notes how she famously refused to attend anti-war rallies, but said she'd gladly attend a peace rally. The implication is she understood this principle. Focus on the desired outcome.
What about the news? It's mostly negative.
The source suggests the media is just reflecting demand. We, the audience, are the cause. The news is the effect. If we collectively focused on and demanded positive stories,
The supply would change.
that's the theory. But the main point for you, the individual, is that you're not powerless.
How so?
By consciously directing your powerful thoughts and feelings towards what is wanted for the world. Feeling good yourself, the source claims, doesn't just help you. It radiates out. It uplifts the collective consciousness.
Okay, this is getting pretty deep. Let's go even deeper. What does the source say about who we actually are? Fundamentally.
Right. This is where it gets into the nature of reality itself. It starts with the idea you mentioned earlier. Everything is energy, vibrating at a frequency.
And our thoughts and feelings determine our personal frequency.
Exactly. And then it connects this to ideas from quantum physics and ancient spiritual traditions.
Which suggests what?
That the whole universe basically emerges from thought. That what we see as solid matter is really just precipitated thought. thought made manifest.
Oh,
And it introduces this concept of the universal mind.
the universal mind.
Yeah, presented as the single unified reality, the source from which everything comes. It contains all possibilities, all knowledge, all inventions, and we're constantly drawing from it, whether we realize it or not.
Which leads to
A pretty profound claim. We are all connected. We are all one.
all one.
Yep. Which means, according to the source, having negative thoughts about someone else, it actually harms you. Because fundamentally, there's no separation. We are one.
And negative emotions stem from forgetting that,
Yeah.
from fear and separation.
That's the idea presented. All negativity comes from that illusion of being separate.
So what are we then, according to this source? What's our ultimate nature?
The descriptions used are, well, incredibly powerful. You are described as eternal energy, as God manifested in human form, spirit in the flesh, a cosmic being.
Seriously?
Seriously. Possessing all power, all wisdom, all intelligence, perfect, magnificent. You are presented quite literally as the creator of your own reality.
That's a lot to take in.
It is. And they emphasize the power of two specific words, I am.
I am.
Yeah. The source claims that whatever you put after I am gets summoned into creation with immense force.
Yeah.
Because you're declaring it as your reality.
So saying I am tired versus I am strong
Yeah.
has a real impact.
A huge impact, according to this material. They even provide a specific affirmation. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Repeating that is suggested as a way to claim your true nature.
And the key to wielding this power
Is simply your awareness of it. Knowing this truth about who you are, knowing the power of your thoughts, that's where your real power lies.
How do you become more aware then? Life is busy. Thoughts just race.
The source offers a simple practice. Just stop multiple times a day and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now?
Just checking in.
Exactly. It pulls you into the present moment, makes you conscious of the frequency you're broadcasting right now. The author even talks about asking the universe for, like, gentle nudges.
Nudges like what?
Like bumping into things or hearing a sudden loud noise. Little physical things to jolt you back into awareness. The mantra they offer is, remember to remember.
Remember to remember who you are and what you're thinking.
Precisely. And knowing this truth, the source argues it just dissolves limitations. It empowers you completely. It brings to mind that Henry Ford quote they use.
Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way you are right.
That's the one. Your belief shapes your reality.
Okay. So after all that, the law of attraction, creating your reality, who you really are, what's the ultimate point? What's the actual secret to life itself, according to this source?
It boils down to something very simple. Joy.
Joy. That's it.
That's presented as the ultimate aim. The goal of life is simply to feel and experience joy. So deliberately doing things that bring you joy. That's the fastest path to everything else you desire.
What if you don't know what brings you joy?
Ask the universe. The source suggests putting the question out there, and the answers will come.
And feeling happy inside, that feeling of joy. It's not just a side effect, it's the driver.
Exactly. Inner happiness, inner joy that's described as the fuel of success. It's what powers the attraction process.
So the final instruction is basically,
Feel good now. That's the quote. That's the only thing you have to do.
and radiating that joy, that good feeling.
Creates an emotional frequency that just pulls in like an avalanche. More joyful things, people, situations, opportunities. It all comes back to feeling good now.
Wow. Okay. So looking back at this whole journey through the source material, we started with this idea of a hidden secret known by geniuses.
Right. Then unpacked how the source says it works. This law of attraction, thoughts having frequencies, feelings being your guide.
We touched on how they suggest applying it to money, health, relationships with specific techniques like the secret check or focusing on appreciation.
And then we really dove into the deep end, the source's claims about who you really are. Connected, powerful, the creator, using I am to shape reality.
The core message that keeps coming through this material is just how incredibly powerful your thoughts and feelings are claimed to be, that they literally shape your world.
And that this knowledge, supposedly kept secret for so long, is now out there, available to you.
Yeah. And the specific examples the source gives, the check game, I could afford that. Morris Goodman's recovery, the art director, Glenda packing her bags, those awareness nudges.
They're not just theories, are they? They're presented as practical things you could actually try, ways to experiment with these ideas in your own life based on what the source recommends.
Definitely gives you things to think about. And what about that final provocative thought? That idea about our fundamental nature?
Right. Consider that claim from the source. 99% of who you are is invisible and untouchable. Or that you're described as eternal energy, spirit in the flesh, part of a one universal mind.
What does it really mean for the limits we normally assume exist in our lives, in the world?
That's the question this material leaves you with, isn't it? It challenges perceived limitations in a pretty fundamental way.
It certainly does. A very unique framework for thinking about reality and our place in it, all drawn from this specific source material we've explored today. Lots to potentially reflect on there.